freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's BMW Championship. It is storylines, it is best bets, it is one and done, and it is a little bit of chaos, which we will get started with here in just one moment. Patrick McDonald is here, and Patrick's giving us his best effort. Patrick is a little under the weather, but I think all things considered, you look great, you sound great.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Greg was mocking my cough in the green room before this. It's been a tough morning in the McDonald household between waking up a little under the weather and then my war against pickleball took a substantial hit this afternoon with some damning numbers being reported. So this has been the high of my day being with you gentlemen.
The sympathy that Greg showed to Patrick saying he wasn't feeling well was just less than none. Okay. I mean, it was mocking. It was mockery is what it was. Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Yes. Patrick, I hope you're feeling well. Well, the original thing is I wasn't sure what you were wearing. I thought maybe it was this whole camera issue and you were, I thought you were wearing that blanket to hide a striped shirt. And then I find out that you have a little cold. So I'm sorry.
A little cold. He's still mocking you, Patrick.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, a little tickle in the throat. So,
let him underestimate me.
If you have to step away or if you lose your voice in the middle, please just let us know.
Just a little
Whatever
tickle,
you need.
Tickle indeed. Kyle Porter is here. KP, for once, the nonsense does not revolve around you just yet.
Give it time. My wife would disagree with that. Greg speaks like someone who has children, and Patrick speaks like someone who does not. I'll say that.
Yeah, true. That is true. We are getting very close to kids getting sick season. It's been a nice summer. In my house, we have had no sickness all summer, and it is about to turn because school starts next week.
It's about to be just diabolical.
Yes. So I will be having Patrick will have an opportunity to mock me in the coming weeks. I promise you that.
Like on a scale of 1 to the Walker Cup at Seminole, how bad is this, Patrick?
Probably like a 3. It's not that bad. I haven't been sick since like peak COVID, so I'm not a great patient.
This is like when was it the Mavs that made fun of, or LeBron that made fun of, and D Wade that made fun of the Mavs, the cough. Do you remember this?
I don't.
I'll pull it up. I'll pull a clip. We'll play it.
Well, Patrick and I are the children, so I stand with Patrick here. He gets my full sympathies. The other thing is, we did not even get hot on the mics before we said, just stop what you're saying. Let's just have this conversation on the show. So I'm going to try to get us back to that point. So for those who weren't there, which is basically everybody who's not us, Patrick gave us his idea for the FedEx Cup. And again, Greg said he hated it and that it was a terrible idea. I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what happened. And then we started to say, okay, well, what could be a good idea? Greg said he does not like the idea of ending the Tour Championship or the FedEx Cup playoffs or deciding anything with match play. I then said, well, there's a couple of good things for match play because you can properly reward golfers by advancing them into, farther rounds, et cetera, et cetera. And then Greg said, I understand that, and then Kyle said, stop. Why don't we just do this on the show? So that is where this conversation has gotten up to at this point. Greg, the problems that you were going to tell us about using match play to decide a champion.
Well, there are many. Match play has proven time and time again to, quite frankly, it's not an effective business model. And the big problem with match play, and the reason why, or part of the reason why the PGA Championship went to stroke play and why the match play didn't survive the PGA Tour schedule, is the product on Sunday suffers. The product on Sunday, it becomes a little boring, quite frankly. And you may get a great match, which can be fun to watch, but you rarely do. And so that creates a really big issue. You also don't have the same number of storylines. You consider what an entire broadcast looks like, and you have players like, just take last week. Scotty Scheffler is not necessarily doesn't necessarily have a chance to win the tournament. Then all of a sudden he does. Matsuyama is going to run away. It's going to be boring. Then all of a sudden it's not. And there are 5 players who have a chance to win. And in many weeks, there are even more players than that who have a chance to win on Sunday. When you get to a tour championship, I'm not saying I'm for starting strokes either, by the way, but when you get to a tour championship that is a stroke play event, you end up with the most compelling finish. I mean, it happens on tour week in and week out. It looks like it's going to be a runaway. You feel like you know who's going to win, and something crazy happens. It always happens. And I think that's why when we're in this world where the television business becomes really important, viewership is more important now than it ever has been. I don't think we could take the risk of going to match play, which is an unproven television product.
I have a couple of notes unless somebody wants to jump in first.
Go for it.
Firstly, I think if you are designing your sport, and Greg, I appreciate your thoughts, and I think they're very good. I disagree with a lot of them, but I think they're very good. If you're designing your sport and your format for television, we've lost. Okay. If we cannot find a way to broadcast anything, match play, without it being boring, that is not the sport's fault. Also, I'm not sure it's that different than stroke play. Are we blown away by the amazing broadcasts that we get week in and week out with how compelling all the information and storylines and results are? I don't know if I am. And
I don't know if I am.
And the other thing is, I agree that stroke play does create a lot of drama. Like you said, Greg, we see it every single week. I wonder if we played 40 match play events a year, what we would see, right? I just think there's not enough of a sample. And I also just think there's not enough of a risk tolerance for the tour and its broadcast partners to do this. But I'm not convinced that anything we have right now is any good.
Well, what was your first point there, Rick? You said
I don't know.
He said if we're designing our sport for TV, we're lost already.
We've lost it. Zach Johnson, Shinnecock.
Well, I mostly agree with you, Rick, but I kind of disagree on that point because I think that so much of your sports foundation is built on television revenue.
Doesn't have to be.
Well,
that's why is that the sport's fault? Why is that the guys who compete for the greatest honor? Why is that their problem?
Well, because they want to make money.
There are lots of ways to make money.
Well, but I think if you, look, like you look at baseball, right? And you see what they've done with the pitch clock. So much of that, that's not in the best interest of players. They don't want it. They've talked about not wanting it, but it is in the best interest of like providing a good product to mostly the television watcher, because in all these sports, like I don't know what the number is. I'm making up a number. 90% of your viewership is not in person. Like that revenue it's not nothing, but like the revenue generated at the Memphis event on TV is so much greater than what's generated in person, at least from a profit standpoint. So I actually do think you need to tailor a lot of your product, especially if you're the PGA Tour, to television.
And the one thing I would add on that too is it's not that you're doctoring it for television, right? You are showcasing the sport on television. But at the same time, it's not like one is the sport and one isn't the sport. It's not like we're going to stroke play only for television, right? Stroke play has been used for a long time to determine who the best players are. And match play has at times, and it shifted to stroke play. So what's the best way? What is the best way to decide who the best players are? And which is what we're trying to do in a playoff scenario. And the one thing that we always come back to is the longer you make a tournament, the cream rises to the top. Right? That's why, like at 90 holes, Scotty Scheffler would have a whole lot more wins than he does at 72, probably a whole lot fewer at 54. So when you get into match play, every event is only 18 holes.
You can make them 36.
Yep. Well,
yes. If you don't care about television, you can make them 36.
My counter to that is getting rid of the playoffs entirely. We don't need a season-long champion.
Now you're speaking Rick's language.
Yes, this was actually so Patrick should have ended with this. He led with get rid of the playoffs and then do this, and the second part was just nonsense.
It was so good.
It was horrible. Greg was right.
Good.
But the correct way is just remove the playoffs, right? The true rising to the top, Patrick, which is where I think you're going with this, the events you play throughout the year. It's going to be a lot of them. If Scotty Scheffler locks up the player of the, whatever you want to call it, the world champion, the PGA Championship, I guess you can't call it that, the PGA Tour Championship in May, sucks. He had a great year, and now that goes down in the history books as one of the greatest years ever.
Well, it's like F1, right? Max Verstappen won the F1, I don't know what it's called, but like the season-long race in like February. Yeah. It's like, well, drive better, drive faster. What do they say over there?
Definitely drive. I hope they say drive faster.
I think I'm like, for the, I mean, the playoffs it's like this, it's just made up. Like, it's not even a real thing. Right. And so I'm fine taking it away. I'm fine with what y'all are talking about, a season long points race, like award the guy at the end of I prefer the Open ending the year, but whatever, award whoever at the end of the year. And we move on to the next season. But if you're going to do the playoffs, I'm pro match play. I think, Rick, I don't know why I'm arguing against you. I think we're on the same side, but I was arguing against you earlier.
Oh, that's okay. No, I don't know. I didn't. Yeah, no, we're very much in line with, I think, what the best product would be for fans. The other thing that Patrick was saying, and I want him to go into this a little bit deeper, because this is one thing I had never heard before. He said, don't count the majors. He said, bring importance back to the PGA Tour schedule.
I like that.
And I liked it too, Pat. I was like, I've never considered that. That's kind of interesting.
He's
Rick,
glowing.
You're coming around after saying my idea was so bad. And then Greg was mocking me. I mean, it was a really tough start to this episode, but I think the only events that should count.
Oh, did y'all hear me call? Think I'm sick.
What is that?
I have no idea.
I don't remember that at all.
That's what
Wayne Wade, and you didn't hear that drop that just played?
No, I didn't see it. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Is that what
I dropped it in here.
Oh, I gotta go click it. Yeah, I don't.
But I think the only events that should count towards a season-long race, or many people out there, not me, are talking about kind of this cadence of 4 signature events, a match play tournament, and then the other 4 signature events, and then another match play tournament. Again, not me, just other people out there.
Patrick's idea. Hold up. Patrick's original idea was play 4 signature events and basically use that to determine the results of those 4 events to determine basically everything moving forward.
No. It's there's no season long race or anything like that. It is just, you have 4 signature events. The top 64 out of those go to a money grab, which is pretty much the FedEx Cup playoffs, but in the form of a match play tournament. And so you have 16 pods. You win your pod. You have golf every single day.
You've lost everyone.
You win
my
your
dad.
pod.
My dad has no chance at this.
You get a bye into the next one. That's whatever. Back to the original point.
Go back to your
Back
strengths
to the
here.
original point.
Yeah.
I think the only events that should count towards a season-long race or whatever should just be the signature events. Throw in the players too.
I'm fine with that. I think my point in doing match play, Greg, is I think that match play has at times been a bad TV product, mostly because you get bad matchups. And the reason you get bad matchups is because there's too many people and there's too many players invited. It's what is it, Rick? Top 64 historically is the WGC.
Yeah.
Match play and I know it's different, but match play at the Ryder Cup and President's Cup is kind of awesome. Now, again, team event, totally different thing. But I actually drew up. I don't know. I texted it to producer Josh. I don't know if he has it in the queue, but I drew up I did this for the Normal Sport newsletter. If people want to go check it out, normalsport.com. I drew up what a top 24 would look like, and I gave the top 8 guys buys. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. First round matchups, you can see on the far left, those were the guys that did not get buys. They were not in the top 8. So they're 9 through 24. So you got Matthew Pavon and Bobby Mack, Sung J.M., Davis Thompson. I'm not going to go through all of them. And then what you get from there is some really interesting, you will reward the top 8 guys for being the top 8. Rick was talking about that earlier. And then you get some really interesting second round matchups. You get Scotty and Bobby Mack. Okay. That's pretty fascinating given the years that they've had. You get Rory and JT. Okay, I'm into that, right? You get Morikawa and Harmon, former Open winners, Ludwig and Cantlay, Sahith and Horschel. That's a just absolute circus of gesticulating and hollering, and Xander and Akshay. I mean, this is super compelling stuff, and I think there's a way to. I totally sympathize with what you're saying, Greg, about the TV product. But I'm also with Rick in that I don't know what we're doing right now is like this smash hit home run. So I don't see the harm in trying something like this. I don't know. I think it could be very interesting.
I think that does look very interesting. I just think the problem is your best day is probably Friday, right? Friday becomes the most compelling day, which is ultimately your problem. Like ideally you want things to build up to Sunday. And by the time you get here, if guys are playing so Scotty would play 1, 2, 3, 4 matches. Other guys, if they weren't top 8, would play 5.
Yeah.
They're pretty spent by the time that championship match comes around.
You could play it over 2 weeks. You wouldn't have to do it all in 1 week. And you could play 36 holes, and I don't know. I think there's, I don't know. I think it could be intriguing. And look, like I don't know if there's interest there, but I think guys you start to talk about the money that's involved in finishing 7th, 8th, 9th in the FedEx Cup, and guys would play 8th place matches, and it would be like it could be intense, you know. And again, I don't know if anybody cares about that, but it would at least be inventory for your TV product. You wouldn't just have, or you would have the ability to not just have 1 or 2 matches going on at a time.
Interesting.
Or this match play in the schedule twice a year that people are talking about.
You saw it on the blogs?
On the dark web is where I think I saw that. Okay. I'm going to put a pin in that. We could obviously bounce this back and forth 900 more hours. There is a new schedule out for next week. We can touch on that real quick. We kind of hit some of it here. But then we got plenty more to do. So Josh, hit the break. And we're back. Okay, the full 2025 schedule is out. So the way that this is going to look in the following weeks, we've got BMW Championship this week, obviously, the Tour Championship next week, 1 week off, and then the FedEx Cup fall portion of the schedule starts. The Fortinet is no longer called the Fortinet. It's called the Procore Championship. It's still in Napa. It's still at Silverado. It just has a new sponsor. There is one new event, the Black Desert Championship. That is in Utah. I have played not this golf course, Patrick, but ones in that area. And it's going to be a lot of that like red rock, high altitude, look like you're on Mars type of golf. That should be interesting. And they're going to Utah, which I don't know if you know when the last time the PGA Tour played in Utah was, but I do not know.
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to say this is the first time ever.
It might be.
Don't pull that from me. But yeah, the Pro Core, I'm an anti-core type of guy. And then the BlackRock Championship, like you said. I had a buddy who, or an associate, technically, play the golf course. He raved about it. So yeah, should be a good one for the fall with guys trying to secure their cards.
I like that you downgraded him to an associate from a buddy. Just very
yeah. I think that's fair. I think he'd probably call himself the same too. Realistic cat.
The PGA Tour first appeared in Utah in 1930, World Golf Hall of Fame. There was a Salt Lake Open, but there has not been a PGA Tour event contested in Utah since 1963, but there has been Korn Ferry Tour events there. So that's kind of a little bit history there. Then we've got the Zozo. We've got the other events as normal, culminating with the RSM Classic for the FedEx Cup Fall. Hero World Challenge, not an official event. The 2025 schedule. And Greg, I want to get your thoughts on this because this schedule, for the most part, identical. Which I think there are some positives in that. There's some consistency. The one thing that jumps out to me is that the signature events for 2024 are the signature events for 2025.
Yes, all the events are the same. There's a difference in name. The Truist Championship replaces the Wells Fargo. And that is this year at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, which will be very cool. But that is not, they're not moving away from Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow is just hosting the PGA Championship. So it's going to feel like an entirely new event. But the following year, it'll go back to Quail Hollow, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So, yes, the other difference is where the Memorial sits. The Memorial is no longer the week before the U.S. Open. It is back to its typical spot in the schedule. The RBC Canadian Open is now the week before the U.S. Open, which, look, that's better for Jack Nicklaus. The Memorial wants to be played on the Memorial Day weekend. And I learned this year that they have, Monday of the Memorial is a pretty big day, being Memorial Day. It's an important day for that event. So it's good that they got them back. I am thinking of this from a little bit of a Scotty Scheffler perspective. You got the Truist Championship, so signature event, PGA, Charles Schwab, which is not signature. He likes to play that. Then the Memorial the week after. So if Scotty wanted to play the Charles Schwab and all the signature events, which he doesn't have to do, that would be 4 in a row for him. And then 1 week off before the U.S. Open. I think they typically like to try to make it where three in a row kind of works for everybody. But you can't make this schedule so it works for everybody. So I think this is fine. And then you got the Travelers right after the U.S. Open as always. And then you're done through the signature events.
Speaking of making things work for everyone, Adam Schupak of Golf Week has an article that I'm reading right now about there being a PGA Tour pack vote today, this afternoon. In fact, could be going on right now. Actually, would be going on right now. So the 16-person pack is meeting either in person, KP, or via a Zoom call about 2026. So we're talking about 2025, but as an unnamed source for anonymity said, if you want to make a change for 2026, it has to happen before 2025 because all of those, everyone needs to know what they're playing for when the 2025 season starts. And it seems as if these discussions are going to be around the number of players in all of the fields, potentially reducing the 154s and the 144s to 120, maybe increasing the signature events as a little bit of a trade-off here. So there seems to be some wiggle room on the field sizes. And don't forget that you're on mute before you talk to me.
I did forget that I was on mute.
It looks
Thank
like
you for reminding me. Yeah, it's a little vague. I wasn't totally sure what they're, and they might not be sure what they're voting on, but there was some talk about not being able to get all the tee times in before dark and having to have play suspended and all that stuff. You should be voting on pace of play, not field size.
Amen.
So I don't know, man. I feel like so much of this stuff, I feel like this with especially the 2025 schedule, it feels like they're just sort of treading water until the public investment fund thing gets worked out, right? There was an article in the Financial Times today. It was all over Twitter. I haven't read it yet, so I should definitely talk about it. But
you read the headline. That's good enough.
I read the headline. It's broadly about Saudi Arabia pulling money back into their country, which is not what Live is, right? I got an invitation this week to go to Live Dallas. It's like 15 minutes from my house. Like Live is all over the world. So I'm very curious to see, like, is the tour just trying to kind of wait them out a little bit, which would be really a sick move. Like it would be pretty wild. A lot of those contracts are coming up. I don't mean for this to be a Live discussion, but I think it's relevant and pertinent to your conversation about the PGA Tour, because I think any innovation that they make with their schedule, with any of this stuff, it's like they're in this weird purgatory where they haven't reached a post-Live world, but they're not the pre-Live world either. And so I think they're not totally sure what to do. But broadly speaking, I disagree with reducing field sizes. I think I don't really think reduce the time it takes to play, not the number of people in the field.
I'm probably more, I think, I don't like that some fields or I would just give me like 120 cut to 60 every single event. I don't care if it's signature. I don't care if it's regular. I don't care about it.
For some reason, I like the Players Championship field number. I think it was 144, I think. It just always seems like
44 in like the West Coast in the winter time, and then they go to 156 in the summertime, where there's more daylight.
Yeah,
you just got to start stroking guys, like Brooks Koepka said.
Yeah, I think
slow play.
I think we are far away from that. Well, I think, and we'll put a cap on this because this could also be a conversation for a long period of time. But there was, the news that the PIF might be trying to keep some money inward. The ratings for the FedEx St. Jude were not very good, down significantly. And
a million, is that right? 1 million people, 1 million households.
So this past Sunday, 2.2 million. Lucas Glover's year last year, 3.2 million. Yeah, it's 1 million households.
The needle.
While pickleball, and this is what Patrick was referring to earlier.
This is a tough scene for Patrick.
Is doubling Live Golf on CW. So pickleball is getting 300,000 viewers. Greenbrier, which had a playoff between their two biggest stars, got 165.
Two of three.
Sorry, Bryson. 165,000, which, listen, this is not working for anybody, right? Like, this is craziness.
So to piggyback on KP's waiting game theory, someone asked, Jaybird in Memphis, a little gaggle of media members there. If the release of the schedule indicates there's not going to be anything with Live through next year, 26 or 27, and he said, quote, "I think that's fair." So the waiting game theory seems strong, very strong. As for the numbers, you got to count the streaming. That's what I'm hoping for, right? Live Golf Plus, Caffeine TV, RIP.
No, yeah, gone out.
Got to think about those. But like I mentioned at the top, tough day for the war on pickleball. The founder of the league actually retweeted my tweet, kind of just rubbing it in my face right now. So hopefully Liv can pick it up in Chicago, and then with KP covering it there in Dallas.
I do want to try to go.
Would that be your first Live event?
Did y'all see the real quick the quote that I can't find it now? Phil basically had a quote that was like they're not going to be on the CW anymore after this year. Did y'all see this?
Mm-mm.
He didn't literally say that, but he was effectively. It might have been in Jeff Shackelford's newsletter, but I don't know, man. Like I just don't know.
How are all the people going to watch?
It sounded like they're going back to something like YouTube, which is what they should have been doing all along.
They would. Oh my God, they'd be crushing YouTube numbers if they just stayed on YouTube. Think about all the people who would have gone via and subscribed via Bryson's channel alone, and then gotten notified when these rounds were on. I just cannot believe they ever left YouTube. Dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, here. Gosh,
they do round one on YouTube.
Yeah. Do they still charge for it?
No, because I mean, I'll watch on YouTube round one.
And
it's not like a ton of
because this has gone through so many iterations, right? Then they tried to do it where like you had to buy a pass to watch it on YouTube and be like $3 to watch round 2, $3 to watch round 3 or something like that. And it's just like,
that's not good.
This is how we're okay.
Here's the quote. This is from some interview that he did, but it was in Jeff Shackelford's newsletter. Go check it out. The Quadrilateral. Phil said, television and viewership for sports, especially golf, is changing. So the old school media and the way that we've done it, which is beyond a network and so forth, is not the way of the future. It's going to be more digital, more streaming. Our new partner, whoever that is after this year, okay, I think is going to be more focused and centric there because of the opportunities that will open up. But I'm not part of those television contracts. I know they're in the middle of negotiating viewership relationships and partnerships going for next year. I just know the old school model is not where Live Golf is headed. It's not where the future is going, and we don't want to get stuck in a rut. I feel like Rick and I have been yelling about that for a year.
Yep.
Would YouTube be considered streaming?
I don't know.
I would say yes, right?
I think so.
What else would it be considered?
It's kind of like social media as well. Like I'll give you if I watch PGA Tour live on ESPN Plus, that's streaming.
Yeah.
There's no social component to it. Like I can't share that with you, or pass it on or watch, a Tom Brady 30 for 30 on ESPN Plus and then all of a sudden subscribe also to PGA Tour live, like you were outlining with YouTube and Bryson. So I think that like the streaming is just, it's like the same thing. It's just not cable.
I always think streaming is just, right. It's not cable. Right.
We sound insane.
I don't know. I'm about to go call it the YouTube and just go full on in on like my brain being mush. Sorry, Mark. No. I guess it is. Yeah, it's streaming, but I don't know.
I think there's a difference, Greg, in YouTube, like stuff that's aired live on there and just YouTube.
Yes.
Right. I think that's the differentiator is stuff that's aired live. I think it could be considered streaming, but I think broadly it's not. Like, I think your point is like broadly, it's not really a streaming platform.
Right. Exactly. And so, like, when I look at, well, streaming is just kind of like it's like you click, it's like a different channel, where
Right.
YouTube is like a different model. It would be which I think is more along the lines of what the future is. I'm obviously not extremely educated about it, conceptually speaking.
But I also just find it so interesting because they're probably is probably not making any money on any of it, right? I mean, they couldn't be making, like, you might as well just make it as accessible as possible.
Dude, okay, we can wrap this, but like, are they gonna give DJ, like, if you read if you like even see the Financial Times article, there is no chance that you walk away thinking, you know what I bet they're going to do? I bet they're going to give Dustin Johnson another $125 million. I don't care. Like, I know they have 700 billion, whatever, but there's like, I just don't see how that's a viable thing. I get that everybody there thinks they're on this like great trajectory and path, and I believe that they believe it. I just have a hard time believing that it is like tenable into the future.
Well, where are they? This is the last thing that I'll make a point of, right? This is the big concern if I'm sitting in Liv's shoes. The BMW Championship this year, of the 50 players that qualified last year, 31 of them are playing again this year. Okay, so you have 19 new players. 17 of them didn't qualify for the BMW this year. 2 of them went to Live, just 2. So how many guys? How are you going to like recycle your talent? You think of the PGA Tour, we got Nick Dunlap and we got Ludwig Oberg, are 2 of the headline guys that weren't in the BMW last year. Now all of a sudden they are. And there are new stars that constantly have the opportunity to come up and play. There's Luke Clanton and Neil Shipley coming up somewhere behind them. There's constantly new people entering. How does Liv get new players to enter? You know, like, do they have to all come from the PGA Tour? Because if they don't come from the PGA Tour and they're the Eugenio Chacarra route, they never have the chance to become stars. So it's like what if Dustin just doesn't sign?
Yeah, it's a perfect point, Greg, and it's one that we've known forever. But it has not been addressed yet, right? This was always the idea was they were always going to have to keep pillaging the PGA Tour for anyone to care.
Well, yeah, and like, let's say they sign this Jose Luis, I don't know how to say his name, Ballester, the kid that won the USAM.
Yeah.
First Spaniard to win the USAM. Okay. Like, I know who he is.
That's not jumping their viewership from 160,000 to 500,000. It's like literally not going to move the needle at all.
And there's just, God, we've said all this a billion times. There's just no vehicle for, like Greg said, creating stars. Like, there's no mechanism other than funneling whoever's good on the PGA Tour over to your tour and slapping a uniform on them. That's it. Like, that's your mechanism. And I don't know, man. Like, the tour waiting them out would be crazy, and I don't think that was their plan. But like, as it stands right now, I think it's actually like not that bad of a position or place to be in.
Well, on that very optimistic note, I'm going to stop this conversation. We will now finally turn our attention to the BMW Championship for this week. We've got bets, we've got one and done, we've got everything else on the other side.
College football is back. SMU at Nevada on CBS Sports Network.
And we're back. All right, Patrick, get us laser focused here. Castle Pines, we're going to Colorado. It's the top 50, the final leg before the Tour Championship of the FedEx Cup playoffs. 30 are moving on. 30 will get their starting positions in Eastlake next week. There are some guys with interesting names outside the top 30. We've got a lot happening. What are you looking for this week?
I am looking for one, I will say, the more compelling playoff event as just the first one. I think it just means more generally to go from 70 to 50 with the signature events. I understand with the Tour Championship, you get all the bonuses, major championship exemptions are in there as well. You think about someone like Nick Dunlap, who didn't get to play in the Open. I mean, even if with winning, he wasn't exempt into that tournament. So the names outside I'm looking at, Zalatoris, who's never played in the Tour Championship, possibly making a run for that President's Cup team. Like, say he gets hot these next 2 weeks, do you take him to Canada? Dunlap could be a fun name to add to that team as well. Potentially 2-time winner this year. Cam Young, Denny, I would love to see him to make the Tour Championship. And then Tommy Fleetwood's the first name out right now. So those are kind of the notables I am looking at. But the President's Cup automatic qualifiers come to an end after this tournament. And like we've talked about, the back half of that U.S. team, kind of the final 4 spots, I feel like are really up in the air.
Just outside, shockingly, because he's had such a great year, Tommy Fleetwood, 31st. Matt Fitzpatrick, who hasn't really had a good year at all, 36th. Will Zalatoris, 37th. Cam Young, Greg, 39th. Max Homa, 43rd. Those are probably my most interesting names on the outside.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's probably right. I mean, look, there are some like the Nick Dunlap story is really cool. If somebody could make a really big move and get into the top 30, it would be a big deal for someone like him. I think the most important thing was getting into the BMW Championship. Now that's checked off. Now who's got the stamina to run onto the Tour Championship? I will say this is a goal. When you hear PGA Tour players talk in interviews, if they're ever asked about goals, making it to Eastlake is always one of them. Being a top 30 guy. I mean, for many guys, to my surprise, it's like their first goal, making it to Eastlake. So it can be a really big deal. And I think that, a lot of these guys have a lot to play for in that regard. I think Justin Thomas, who's well inside, is probably the guy that I'm looking at closest this week. Because Patrick, like you were saying, automatic qualifiers end after the BMW. But the pick, if you're very limited in events you can play. When are the picks made?
I believe after the Tour Championship.
So basically, the picks are kind of like decided now.
I will say this: the point system that they use is very bizarre. So it's 1.5 points for every FedEx Cup point in a playoff event. So Sahith Theegala right now, he's the last automatic qualifier at 4,500 points. A win gets you 3,000 points. So if you win this event, you could easily see someone like Keegan Bradley automatically qualify, or a Tom
Austin
Hoge,
Eckroat,
or a JT Poston. Just like, I don't want to throw those guys under the bus, but like a rather obscure name that is not on anyone's radar.
Yes. Yeah, there are basically everybody's within 3,000 points of Sahith.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that would mean, if Davis Thompson won this week, he would be on the President's Cup team.
Austin Eckroat.
Yeah.
Automatically qualified.
Automatic. Also, I'm on the website right now. 6 captains picks to be named on a date TBD is
okay. Right. That's what I thought. But still, like if you got the Tour Championship and one other event that's even possible.
Right.
So this is really, in my view, this is. Sorry.
Oh.
Tickle now, Greg.
You hate to see it.
It's you.
I get it.
Wow. Well, on that note,
Chill. I think I have to go.
I think, yeah. Right now they just take the top 12, right? Scotty, Xander, Morikawa, Wyndham, Cantlay, Sahith, Finau, Henley, Homa, Harmon, Burns, Akshay.
No. Max Homa's not on my team.
I think JT's a big X factor there, and
Max Homa's not on my team.
someone who I'm really liking lately is Billy Horschel.
Yeah.
I will say this. Jim Furyk, we did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and he said he was paying very close attention to the points list. In essence, I'm going chalk.
Gotcha.
So it's just something to pay attention to. It brings Max Homa into question for me with Justin Thomas sitting outside. Like if you went with 11 of the top 12 players and one swap out, I think that would still be under the heading of chalk.
Who would you swap out though?
Probably JT and Max Homa.
You'd take Homa out and put JT in?
Yeah.
What about Harmon?
I think Harmon's fine. I don't think there's anybody. The thing is, Max Homa has been so bad off the tee. It is alarming. And I haven't seen any signs that this is like that he's figuring it out.
I would get out on Homa and Harmon, in on. I'd be fine with Justin Thomas and Billy Horschel.
I'd be fine with Billy Horschel too.
Keegan gets the Heisman in a.
Well, he's an assistant captain.
He's busy. Yeah, like you can't
He's
have
got to
everything.
see the other side. Keegan's
He's going to be a
see
playing
the other
captain
side.
twice.
He's also not playing all that well right now.
Yeah, none of these guys are playing that well.
What's
Billy
Nick
is.
Dunlap at?
Yeah, Billy is. Yeah, that's true.
He probably doesn't get any points because he was an amateur at some point this year. He's probably just like completely barred from the list.
Where is he? Well, I guess
I hate how they only go through 25.
He probably didn't get. Seriously, he probably didn't get the points. Yeah.
No way.
Well, he probably got last week he got some the
He
Barracuda.
got 0 FedEx Cup points.
is Russell Henley on your team, Rick?
I think he has to be. Yeah. I mean, I'm not
Okay.
inspired by it.
Don't say it in that tone, Rick.
I mean, I'm not-
think
I-
he does.
I'm not inspired by any of it. Like the top three, and then I'm excited about Sahith and Akshay.
Okay.
The PGA Tour website, the data feed has the full ranks for President's Cup. So Nick Dunlap is 28th. He has 2,200 points. So if he were to win,
yeah,
he'd
could
be an automatic
auto-qualify.
qualifier.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be awesome.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta edit the betting cards this week.
No, leave them as they are, because otherwise, like if we pick him, he for sure won't win.
That is true. Can't game
fair.
day him.
Tiger Woods has 28 points. He's 160th on the list, in case you were wondering.
Right where he wants him.
Right, he's got him right where he wants him. He's just behind Kyle Stanley, so things are certainly trending. That's Greg's guy.
Wow.
Last thing here before we get to the picks, and excuse me, Kyle, I'll send this to you because you've been very astute in this conversation. Spots 3 through 7 or 8, incredibly valuable heading into Eastlake. Hideki currently resides in the 3rd spot and has a 1,300 point gap on Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, Wyndham Clark. So probably one of those 4 will be in the 3rd spot, and they'll kind of be jockeying in between. Ludwig is 7th. Sahith is 8th. Patrick Cantlay has gotten himself into the top 10. He's 9th.
Yeah, I think last week you start playing for 3rd, but then the guy that was whatever place Hideki was in, 9th or 7th or whatever it was, wins. And so now you're playing for 4th. I think 4th is still valuable. You're 6 under. You're 2 back of Xander and 4 back of Scott. You might be 2 back of the real lead. Xander.
Jeez. Talk about the guy who's just got the real lead treatment.
I couldn't help myself. Yeah, so I think you're looking at, I think you're playing for 4th. And I think that brings in, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think that brings in so many interesting names, like a Cantlay, who I threw out there last week, like a Benny On, like a Russ Henley. Like there's a lot of different scenarios at play with guys 4 through, I don't know, 15, 12.
So fourth is wide. So if you call it fourth, anybody within 2,000 points of that has 1,500 points, which is Sepp Straka in 24th. Now, obviously, guys between Rory and Sepp Straka are also going to earn points this week, but that's how far down the list you could conceivably go.
Well, and you're talking about guys that would have to win, so they would jump up with a lot. And yeah, they might still get surpassed by. It just depends. It depends on where those top guys kind of finish out.
Right. If Sepp Straka wins and Morikawa finishes second, Morikawa would still have more points than Sepp Straka would.
Who of those guys do you think, Kyle, has the stuff to win from 2 back of the real lead, as you say? Yeah, I think that's right.
Cantlay. I mean, I took him last. I don't know what he is this week to win the FedEx Cup, but I took him last week at 50-1. I was reading Rick's newsletter today. He hasn't played that much. He's fresh. He's played really well.
He's played so little this year.
Yeah.
Really?
Him and Victor. It's legitimately majors and signature events.
But
That's like all they've done.
He's played very well. He's got like 3, off the top of my head, 3 top 12s in his last 4 starts, 4 top 20s in a row. I think he's been, he hasn't played a lot, so he hasn't had a lot of attention, but he's been low key really good, like really solid recently. And he's got the pedigree to go win the FedEx Cup. So that's the guy. He's 9th, I believe, now in the standings. So that's the guy that I'm kind of looking at to potentially make a move.
Fresh legs. Okay, let's get to the grid here. And if you're tuning in for the first time, we take $100 and we put 50 on the matchup of our choice, 30 on our favorite finishing position, and 10 each on 2 separate outrights. Then we get a little bonus bet, but we'll get to that in just a second. We've got a very interesting situation with the matchups. If Josh, you could show us the grid, please, that would be very handy. Thank you kindly. We've got some 3-ball action here, but Greg did the right thing and found a matchup. So we'll start there with you, Greg. And this is a little Canadian on Canadian crime.
Yes. 2-ball, Taylor Pendrith over Corey Connors at plus 125. So the one thing with Taylor Pendrith is I think he's just playing really well. He is also 13th on the President's Cup standings for the international side. He wants to earn his way, work his way up that list as well, make sure he gets on that team. And while Corey Connors has played well also, I'm very high on Taylor Pendrith this week because of the way he's been hitting it. And to see him at plus 125 against Corey Connors, I think he can beat him. So it's no shot to Corey Connors. It's not that I don't think Corey Connors will play well. I think this will be a really close match. But I love the number on Taylor Pendrith. It was hard for me to pass on.
Of the matchups, of the 3 balls, Patrick and I found the same one. So Patrick, please reveal to the people what we've opted for.
We're going with White Man Can't Jump, Billy Ho, plus 170 over Sahith Theegala and Davey Thompson's Locker. He's a Momo guy. Billy Horschel always has been. And he's riding it right now. 3 straight top 10 finishes. He's got President's Cup on his mind. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's won in the state of Colorado before in the playoffs. Gotta like that. At the BMW. So plus 170 for Theegala, who was pretty uninspiring last week. Pretty poor iron play as of late. Same with Thompson, really ever since that win. So give me Billy Ho at plus 170 over those 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. For all of those reasons, especially the Momo is why I went with Billy Ho. And KP, you also have a 3-ball. The trend here is strong. It's Patrick Cantlay in some form. Who is he up against?
I think my fantasy team next year is going to be Ho's Mo.
Nice.
We'll workshop that. Sounded better in my head. I've got same one as I took last week. Cantlay over Morikawa and Ludwig.
Was it exactly the same one?
Yeah, I think Ludwig is fading. Clearly he is. His short game has been bad recently. RickRunGoodNewsletter.com. It's just RickRunGood.com. No newsletter. And more, so you get Cantlay against Morikawa straight up plus 190. I'll take it. I like that. I like that number.
I just Googled what the most popular fantasy golf team name was, and I believe it is Two Putt Shakur.
Wow.
Get it?
I honestly, I wouldn't expect that crossover between golf and rap. That's incredible.
That's why it is so good. Finishing positions. We've got 3 top 20s and a top 10. Greg, bouncing it back to you, please.
Yeah, let's just keep riding Eric Cole. He's playing great golf. He's really confident. He could. I mean, he's in it. I got him for a top 20 at plus 200. He's got to beat 30 guys, and what he can do on a Sunday like he did last week is inspiring to me. So I think you see Eric Cole hang around that top 20, play really well on Sunday, get inside there. Plus 200, sign me up.
I opted for Aaron Rye to finish inside the top 10. Obviously won the Wyndham Championship, and he was second in the field in approach play again last week behind just Victor Hovland. He continues to go straight flushing. And KP, what'd you find?
Yeah, I've got Nick Dunlap top 20. This was I actually had Cantlay in this spot, but it was the same number for him to top 10 as it was for Dunlap to top 20. There's only 50 guys in the field. I loved I saw a quote from him after Memphis where he said it was the most nervous he'd ever been, just because he's having so much fun playing right now. And I think that is really valuable this time of year because it's sometimes not that much fun to be grinded through the playoffs. So I'm taking the youth and exuberance here to finish in the top 20 plus 130.
Patrick, round us out here.
Taylor Pendrith, Greg's boy, top 20 plus 180. Love the top 20 this week. Only got to beat 30 guys. And like Greg said, he's playing awesome golf and a ton of play for being on that Tour Championship bubble and that President's Cup bubble. So I think he gets it done. Pretty underrated season from him, I think. So top 20 at plus 180.
Rye top 10, Dunlap top 20, Pendrith top 20, Eric Cole top 20. Outrights. Greg and I have not gone for the perfect grid. It looks like the other two have. So we will save those for later. Greg, why don't you present us with your 2 separate outrights, please?
Yeah, I got to start playing better before I start going for the perfect grid. Maybe we get on a run at some point and we can attack that then. I am going with Scotty Scheffler at plus 330. I feel like I'm leaving money on the table if I don't. And then I'm also going with Patrick Cantlay, Kyle, at plus 1800.
Oh, baby.
I really like the way that Patrick Cantlay is trending as well. I like the fact that he's fresh, like Rick pointed out. I like the way that his game has been when he has played. And he loves BMW championships at any venue. So 18-1.
I'm wearing my Wilmington shirt that I got at the BMW Championship.
It's all coming together.
Was
The
that 2
Delaware
years
20.
ago? Was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2
Oh my
years.
gosh. Time flies. I went with Wyndham Clark. I think that he's trending and he is a very, very high upside golfer. Positions 2 through 50 do not matter to me. So he might finish dead last. He might win this golf tournament 28-1. And then I'm going to buy it. This might be a sucker play. It might be a little bit early. Victor Hovland at 18-1. Really good signs last week. I know we saw them as well at the PGA Championship, but this is back against the wall time for Victor. A little bit of pride in defending this crown. I'm gonna roll with him 28 and 18-1. KP. I see a BMW Championship wager, and I see a ladies wager at the Old Course this week.
Yeah, baby. Xander, I picked him on Sunday of last week. I just think this sounds dumb, but I think he's just going to, it's clear to me he's going to win the last 2 events. I don't know if that's how it'll play out. I think he's going to pull a Hovland from last year, win the last 2. And then I've got Lauren Coughlin at the Old Course, the Women's Open. She's actually won 2 of her last 3, coming off a Scottish Open win, playing some of the best golf of anybody in the field. She's never won a major, but I'm pretty fired up to see what she can do this weekend.
Anytime we can get the Old Course on the TV, you just
baby.
appointment viewing.
3 years in a row. Open, Walker Cup, Women's Open.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh, wow.
The Patrick card. Okay.
Hmm.
Give me the first one here.
We're gonna exacta box Xander and Scotty. So pretty much they have to finish 1-2 any order at 14-1. And then once that happens, it's okay, who's going to finish third, which in hindsight, I probably should have just trifecta boxed this, but had to do another outright. We're going to go winner without Xander and without Scotty. The Hamburglar, Wyndham Clark, 20-1. Rick, I don't know if you knew this doing all your research, but Wyndham Clark, 1, Colorado native, 2, he's played like 20, 30 rounds at this golf course. I don't think enough people are talking about that. So playing better golf than he's getting credit for. And I think he keeps a good thing going this week.
So Patrick has boxed Xander and Scotty. So they have to finish first or second. Doesn't matter what order. That's 14-1. And then Wyndham to have the best finish outside or win the golf tournament. But if Xander or Scotty win, this still cashes at 20-1. It's a without market without those two big boys. Why is Wyndham Clark the Hamburglar?
A couple reasons. One, he kind of steals things, right? AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, 54-hole tournament, kind of stole that one. US Open kind of stole that one. And then I've heard a story about him and a hamburger from a couple sources that
What's
I don't
the
know
story?
I don't know if I can share. It doesn't paint him in the best light.
I will say when I write down his name to make sure I spell it right, I say Windham.
Windham Burglar.
So
Windham
that's
Burglar.
where I thought you were going to go.
That also
Check
plays
out.
too.
That's like when I write Wednesday and I write Wednesday.
I do the
Yeah.
same
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
All right, text me the hamburger story. Okay. Our bonus bets, $50 on anything that we want. We usually get a very diverse board here. I'll get out of the way. Aaron Rye, top UK and Ireland, 5-1. Rory McIlroy, broken. Fleetwood, fading.
Broken.
McIntyre, short game specialist. Lowry, cooked. Fitzpatrick, hurt. This is an easy one. 5-1.
Wow.
Okay.
Cooked.
Greg, you also have the Hamburglar on your card.
Yeah, we got to get back in the black here. This has not been a fun slide. I got Wyndham Clark, the Hamburglar, top 10, plus 190. I love it. I love Wyndham this week.
Kyle. Wow. Kyle has now extended his card to the DP World Tour.
Is that what this is? I
Yes.
couldn't tell.
Worldwide. Dollar.
Yes.
The field is so
Pitbull.
bad that I wasn't positive that it was a Euro event.
It is.
I've got someone from the Højgaard family to win the Danish Golf Championship.
Any of them.
Any of them. I'm worried about Tom McKibben. I'm worried about Thorborn, but I'm confident. I think somebody from the Højgaard household can take this.
I believe Rasmus is the defending champion.
Well, let's look it up.
So
That's right.
there are only
Yeah.
two Højgaards in this field, Nikolai and Rasmus. And is that true? Did we confirm that Rasmus won this last year?
So the last
I'm confirming now.
five
Pretty sure.
winners: Rasmus, Oliver Wilson, Bernd Wiesberger,
He's won it a handful of times.
canceled in 2020, Bernd Wiesberger, Matt Wallace, and then Julian Suri,
Oh, Duke grad.
Thomas Peters, David Horsey, Mark Warren. It's only been around since 2014. I think it's not going to exchange last names this year. I think Nikolai is going to win it.
It used to be called something else. What did it used to be called? It used to have a sponsor, KP. Do you have that there?
The Maid in Denmark.
Yeah, or the Maiden or the
that.
Maiden Himmerland, I think
Yep.
it was.
That was that was the last 3 years. Before that, it was the Maid in Denmark.
So I know that it's probably bad for them that they lost their sponsor, but Danish Golf Championship is a way better tournament name.
You know, I was on the Women's Open website today. I was doing some research. I wrote a piece for CBSSports.com, just kind of lightly previewing because that's not really. I didn't need to get too steep on it because I was out over my skis. But anyway, the online store, Rick, I know you're a big online major store guy.
Big time.
The only hats they have, I was like, oh, the women's open hat. That'd be cool to wear. It said AIG on it.
Oh,
it said AIG Women's Open. Like the only hats they had.
That's bad.
That's so awful. I get it. Like I get that you paid a lot of money, but I'm not trying to wear an AIG hat.
And who would? That's
terrible.
Although,
yeah, those are bad.
They're really bad. Did you see these, Kyle? Did you buy these at all?
I didn't. I don't know.
I'm working on it. Josh, share my screen.
Whoa.
The Adidas Chaos golf shoe that has they're high tops, first off.
Yeah.
They have
very
three slots for tees. They look like Marty McFly's hover boots or whatever.
They're like ski boots.
Dunk on someone afterwards.
They have them in black.
They're almost gone.
What is JL?
It's got to be like a designer of some type.
Probably somebody on the YouTube.
J3.
Yeah, those are something else.
I could see Greg in those.
I think it's
just a fashion label.
A fashion brand.
Oh, I knew
little,
I was just seeing if y'all knew it.
Looks a little
Yeah, you knew. What does it look, Patrick?
Nothing. So my pick is gonna be because it's Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler to finish top 10 at plus 110. KP is proclaiming and preaching that Xander Schauffele is going to win this golf tournament. Guess what? I'm buying all of it.
You picked him on .com.
I know, and so I had to kind of swerve from the Scotty Scheffler to win. Can't win the big one, right? Never won a playoff event. 0-2 at the Tour Championship. You got to factor that in, and so I went Scheffler and Schauffele both top 10 at plus 110.
I think my new favorite corner is Scotty Scheffler can't win the big one because he never won a playoff event. That is
he can't win the big one. He's
so good.
He's what?
He's like the Buffalo Bills. He's like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, he's Peyton Manning. That's great, Greg. Just stats boy.
Right.
Can't win the big one.
Can't win the big one.
Hey, they did call the Tour Championship the Super Bowl of golf.
The Super Bowl of golf. That's a great call, KP. No, sorry, Paul. Bills Mafia. Take a lap, pal.
The RNA does usually a much. This is an atrocious.
Rick is he's gone. We've lost Rick.
There is not. I've looked at every item in the men's shop. There is not one that does not say AIG Women's Open on it.
It's awful, right?
It's criminal. The men's side was much better. They've screwed this up.
Yeah, they don't have a title sponsor.
But still, some of the stuff said they'll sell Royal Portrush stuff. They'll sell Royal Troon. They'll sell just the I mean, I guess, but it's criminal.
I'm pro sponsor. Like if that's how the money, like if that's how you need the money, but like you don't have to. It's not like I don't know. You don't have to. I'm trying to think of a tour event. Like, does the stuff they sell? I guess the stuff they sell at tour events says
they do, and I can't believe anybody buys it. It says like
FedEx St. Jude Championship,
or it says like even like the one that the one in Vegas where it says Shriners whatever. I'm like, this is so corny. What's that, Patrick?
Does API have MasterCard stuff on it?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's got it like on the side of the hat.
The best item in the store are those chaos shoes, but they don't have them in my size because they're women's shoes. But
they are chaotic.
Could you imagine if I rolled up to how you roll up and dink one out there 230 in these extreme chaos shoes would be sick.
Yeah, but you can offer tees to people all day.
Yeah, I
I can't
would.
believe they're called chaos shoes.
They have straps around the ankles just in case I have to
Really?
flip my golf cart back over. One and done. This is not the final week for us because we've developed a system that will give us a fighting chance to catch Greg, but we chase him for now. And there are 5 different selections for the 6 here on the pod. KP, you and Mark in lockstep for this week. And it should be no surprise to anyone who's been listening to the show that you selected
The Hamburglar.
Wyndham Clark. I went with Will Zalatoris. I don't know. Josh went with Aaron Rye. Patrick, you are in a good spot. You're in second. You lead Josh by 1.4 million. You trail Greg by 5.5, but this week, next week, maybe you get a run on him.
Yeah, I went with Hovland. I've got the Hamburglar and Rory McIlroy, who's left. So I'm hoping the Hamburglar kind of makes a move this week, gets him in that 4th, maybe 3rd spot. So I can pick him for Eastlake, and Hovland can maybe win. But I'm all over the place. I have a lot of eggs everywhere right now.
You're gonna sit Rory for Eastlake?
We'll see. I mean, Rick said he was lost. We'll see if he can find himself this week.
So I might go the other way. I've got Victor left for Eastlake. I've got Victor and Rory.
Yep.
And I need to pass Mark, who's for sure playing Rory.
100%. He told us that 5 years ago. Greg, you have the luxury of being ahead, although I think are you still in the top 10 overall?
I don't think so. I haven't checked.
There was a lot of Hideki's last week.
I backed into the playoffs big time.
Yeah.
And didn't have a great week last week.
You're in 14th.
I'm in 14th. So we need to make a move. So I played Patrick Cantlay this week. I was between him and Wyndham Clark. Very high on Wyndham. And I was really just thinking, I think Patrick's got to do it soon. So I also have Hideki still, who, because he's going to be in 3rd, probably makes the most sense for Eastlake. If Wyndham Clark plays great and gets up into 3rd or 4th or something, I got a choice to make. Hopefully, Patrick Cantlay just wins this week, moves way up. He's not available to me. This is all solved. But I figured if I end up it's a lot easier for me to not play Wyndham Clark in a season than not play Patrick Cantlay. So I had to get him in this week.
Greg, 19.4 million has gone with Patrick Cantlay. Patrick, 13.8 million has gone with Victor Hovland. Josh, 12.4 million has gone with Aaron Rye. Mark, 10 million, Wyndham Clark. Rick, 9.5 million, Will Zalatoris. Kyle, Wyndham Clark, 8.6. The overall leader is Cody 6, and he's in the chat. Cody, be brave and tell us who you picked. Go ahead, do it. Put it in the chat. Be brave. Tell us who you selected for this week. We will release your pick on the show as well. Let's see how brave Cody can be. Gentlemen, while we give him 30 seconds to do that, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'd like to hold on. I've got it right here.
Cody is trying to take a coward's way out. He says he's between Billy Horschel and Willie.
He
hasn't chosen yet. I doubt it. Cody, pick one.
Classic Cody 6.
Classic. Leaving the door.
Classic.
Can I share my screen here? There we go. Okay, I looked up Arnold Palmer hats.
Boom. There you go.
First of all, they do have MasterCard. You see it on the yellow one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not great. White one. However, the hats with just the umbrella totally make up for it.
Yes. They have options.
Sweet.
Yeah. That one. This one, $65, but it's stitched. Whatever. 65, take my money. It's an amazing hat.
I love that hat.
Yeah, it's great. Now, the tie-dye, I'm good on.
Almost gone.
But you need
into the dumpster.
Yeah.
You need the option.
Yeah, there's a collab with Puma. So scroll down. The
Yeah.
collab with Puma.
Yeah, maybe not my style, but I'm fine with it.
Options.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we don't have MasterCard everywhere. We've got it somewhere. Fine. Okay. But we've also got the pink and the blue with just the umbrella. Great underrated logo, by the way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will also say that the women's gear for the AIG Women's Open was way better. And it was not all branded like that. They had collabs with Adidas. They had collabs with Jalel. They had it was a lot better than the men's stuff, which is good. So I did want to put that out there. Also, someone in the chat said PGA versus Live hat sales. I do bet you Live sells more hats than
For sure.
the PGA Tour does.
I mean, how would the PGA? Well, I guess, are they just talking about like these Arnold Palmer hats?
I guess if you said, okay, at merchandise stands at PGA Tour events versus merchandise stands at Live Golf events, how many hats?
There's just so many more people at PGA Tour events.
Yeah, and you also couldn't count the majors because those would blow hat sales out of the water.
That would be a very interesting science project.
Cody has locked in Billy Horschel. We will hold him to that. I will check on Thursday morning when this tees off to see if that is actually who he selected. But thank you, Cody. You're being a good sport, and we appreciate that. Anything else?
Good picks, boys. Good week. Patrick, I sincerely apologize for mocking you for the last hour. I hope you accept.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that, Greg. I think
and I
ended up getting my revenge with your terribly embarrassing sneeze live on air. I mean, totally unprofessional of you. But I do.
It was embarrassing.
I do accept your apology.
Speaking of live on air, 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. That's Wednesday. You can find us live on air, CBS Sports Network. We will be knocking it around, seeing what happens. And then, of course, round by round recaps the rest of the way. For now, big thanks to producer Josh. Does all the hard work behind the scenes. Patrick McDonald at P McDonald CBS. Greg DuCharme at The Real GFD. Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.